Hi, it's Craig from AI Goes to College. This is a little quick and dirty lo-fi video just showing you something I did today that I thought was kind of interesting using ChatGPT. I was using ChatGPT 4. I teach a junior level Principles of Information Systems class. All the business students have to take this course. And we're doing Excel pivot tables right now as part of the class. I'm kind of bored with some of the examples I've been using. I've got a bunch of examples I've been using for years, but they really focus a lot on the sales of products and services. And I thought, well, let me broaden that out a little bit. So you can see the fairly simple prompt I gave ChatGPT. Can you help me develop some in-class pivot table labs for a junior level business class? I have plenty of examples of sales of products and services, so I want some from other contexts. These should be relatively straightforward as students are novices. So I gave ChatGPT a little bit of context, a little bit of a constraint that I didn't want products and services. And I purposely left it pretty open because I wanted to see what it would come up with. And it came up with 5 pretty decent examples. Pretty decent examples. An HR example, focusing primarily on demographics and some other things. You can see it says it gives me the data points, the columns it'll include, some suggested tasks. There's one for university administration, one for healthcare management, one for public library, and one for nonprofit donations. And I really like this. This gives me enough where I can kind of tell, all right, I didn't want the university administration one, and I didn't get too excited by the public library system one. So I said, all right, start out with the HR. And it did. So it took a couple minutes and created a data set. And what it does is quite useful. It gives you the first 5 or so rows of the data set. This is a pretty limited number of columns, but if it had more columns, you could scroll back and forth horizontally. I like this overall, but I didn't like employee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I said, okay, that's great. Always thank ChatGPT. Can you replace the values in the name column with actual fake names? And I know that's kind of an oxymoron, but it understood what I was talking about. And it came up with the names. And so I downloaded that, started playing around with it, and then I'm going to skip this next part. I kind of forgot the function the Excel formula that would let me split the first and last names out. So I asked it for a function. It gave me Python. I said, nope, I don't want Python. I want Excel. Here you go. And so I did some manual manipulation of that particular example. Then I said, all right, let's move on to the healthcare example. But I can learn. So I said, be sure to use real names and separate names into given and surnames and include several hundred rows. So it gives me this, which is not bad. But I really didn't want oncology in there. I'm afraid that might trigger some people. You know, a lot of folks have had losses due to cancer, family members that have suffered through cancer. And I thought, yeah, I don't want to open up any of those wounds. I mean, I've lost a wife, and my wife Tracy is a cancer survivor. So I thought, let's move off of that. So I said, okay, change oncology to ophthalmology, vary the difference between admission and discharge dates. Something I noticed after I downloaded the Excel file and kind of looked it over is that they always had 2 days difference. So I said, all right, let's vary that a little bit. I want a month of admission column and then a length of stay column. So I just wanted a couple of more columns that would lend itself to using pivot tables. So it does its thing, creates this data set, looked good to me, so I downloaded it, added it to my data set folder. And then we moved on to the nonprofit data set. And I gave it some more specific instructions. And I think one of the big takeaways here is that I'm kind of learning as I'm using it. So I started giving it more and more detailed instructions as I went through the 3 different examples that I wanted. And so this time, it was pretty close to what I wanted. In fact, real close. I thought it was just fine. Gave me everything I needed. This is plenty for me to be able to have some good activities for my labs. By the way, it tended to give me about 300 rows, which is nice with pivot tables. It doesn't matter if you're doing 30 rows or 30,000 rows. It all kind of works the same. So 300 is big enough to look like it's big. So that's fine. You could get it to crank out more, I'm sure. But anyway, that's about it. I just thought this was a really useful thing. I don't know, it took me maybe 15 minutes to create some pretty good data sets with the help of ChatGPT. It probably would have taken me an hour and a half to track down the data using something like Kaggle and go in and strip out columns and just kind of tailor it to what I wanted. So I thought this was a pretty successful little experiment, and I hope you do too. All right, remember you can subscribe to the AI Goes to College newsletter or podcast. Follow the podcast, whatever they're calling it these days, at aigoestocollege.com. That's aigoestocollege.com. Or you can click wherever they put the like, subscribe. I don't know where all that stuff is in YouTube. If you want to, great. If you don't want to, that's okay too. All right, talk to you next time.